enforce those rules where her hands are tied. And that is why she would be considered to
But
be.
he also said her hands legally. I said, well, legally, can she even do that? And he said, well, legally she can, but she won't listen to us.
But you can't legally do that.
I'm not going to speak.
Well,
to it.
but this is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we're getting lots of different answers from different people. I mean, here you guys just got up and said we owe $500,000 or whatever. And so then now we have a previous board member saying, hold on, this is the breakdown. So how can I trust what you're saying when I'm not getting the whole picture, I guess? And I appreciate you guys, I really, really do, but I just kind of want honesty. Because and we've been hearing all these different things, like, I just want one concrete answer to many of our questions. Because we're all-
Yes or no? I mean, we're at a stalemate right now because we were told that. It wasn't a rumor, it wasn't on Friends of Aquia, it wasn't something like that. We were told that.
And there were six of us there.
And there were six of us there.
Well,
And how convenient that he's not here.
Another director said, if you don't want to bring it, I mean, Mr. Hodges and I sat on the board together. Well, no, it wasn't true. Please, ladies, please. You asked a question, I'm trying to answer it. Mr. Hodges and I just said effectively the same thing. Half of that receivables, he will never collect. It's been there forever, it will be there forever. The chief of police is not here to collect dues. The chief of police is not going to help us collect dues. It's not our job. We've been told that. There were some of us, and I will be very honest, I'm one of them, that would have liked to see us, if we could take stickers off cars that hadn't paid their dues, to do that. But we legally cannot do that. Okay? I'm not going to respond to, Mr. Winter's not here, he's not feeling well. You have to take that one.
It's on
Yes, sir.
vacation.
Huh?
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Fred Elton, lot 1006. Why don't you just put a lien on the property with the county, and when they go to sell the house, collect the money then? And that's what contractors do when they don't get paid. So when they want to sell their house, they're going to have to pay up the dues instead of spending all the money on attorneys trying to track them all down. I mean, attorneys are just bloodthirsty. They want to get their money whether
We know that. Sir, that's a very good point, but the fact of the matter is, we do that. But to put a lien on a home costs $1,000.
Okay.
Our dues are about $1,200.
Okay, so
Liens
we're already
expire, but
$2,000.
liens expire. Liens are only good for 3 years, then they expire. So if you put a lien on a home, it costs you $1,000 to do it, you've got to renew it again in 3 years, and it costs you again. And we have had houses in here sold recently where people owed us money, and we had a lien, but we didn't get any money because there was no equity. If the mortgage company comes first, they got to get their money. If there's anything left, then we get it. I mean, these are good ideas, but they're not new ideas. We've been spending money doing this sort of stuff for years. Liens we went away from liens about 3 years ago when half the community was upside down. Because if there's no equity, there's no point in having a lien. It's not worth it. But it is a good idea. We've done it. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Patrick Healy, lot 2637. I'm a 28-year member here. I have a lot of things to say. Number one is we have 2 missing in action today. The other thing is that we have the word revitalization,
Yes.
okay, is kicked around. Also, there's the word negligence. If you've driven around the harbor, you have 31 miles of roads, and you see a lot of houses in disrepair, and it keeps going down. You also see mold on the houses. I mentioned to Mr. Langer the other day, this is the first time I met you face to face, is that you could get somebody out like roofglow.com, other places, and have maybe multi-home contracts to reduce the price of getting mold off the houses, which is a dangerous process, obviously. It wasn't here 25 years ago in 1990, I can tell you that. Okay. The other thing you can do is have a mass contract with power washers to clean up the siding. The people that don't pay, for instance, negligence, that's pure negligence. The lien is the only way to go. But they don't deserve to get in here because those are the people that are running down this community and making things look very bad. Another thing that's obvious when you drive in here is the roads. The roads are terrible. They've been terrible for a long time. I teach at a community college up north. I talked to a man in 1990. He said he wouldn't move in Aquia Harbor because the roads were terrible. So he bought a house in Prince William County. So what happened to the $70,000? Okay, I realize about the trash contracts. So what you need to do is you need to get onto a schedule. Also, it's crazy to have a 2016 sticker being put on the 1st of April. It doesn't match. We're in the year 2015. So we need to sync that up if there's some way possible. The stickers have to be on there, I told this to Chief Harmon about 5 years ago. She says, I'm not responsible for financials. We had 2011 stickers coming here, 2012, 2013, and so forth, and they were out of date. Okay. Also, the situation that's going to happen on a quiet drive out here, Washington Drive, with another entrance over here, that's going to impact the operations at the front gate. $195,000 check was already received. Okay. And I don't know what you're going to do with that money. It seems like to me that as long as the money is coming in, you don't care about the individual homes. I have some other items here. The stray dog issue, leave it the way it was. Take it back from an operational standpoint. If Stafford County has 6 calls on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock to pick up stray dogs, they can't have one truck, one guy running around and do it. So somebody's got to take care of that dog. This time of the year, you could have rabid dogs. We have raccoons, skunks, coyotes, squirrels, and other dogs. That dog could be rabid. Okay. Anyway, I think you should leave it. But the vote the other night on Wednesday night, you left it the way it was. You changed it back to what it is now, and actually, Stafford County Animal Control is in charge of that. Okay. Retain the Aquia Harbor Police Department. A contract security will not do the job. I was told in 1968 that they had a lot of burglaries in here because a lot of people worked in Washington and other places up north. So during the day, houses were unprotected. I had a break-in on November the 7th, 2010, an attempted break-in. In fact, I've still got 2 cut screens. Now I have ADT security. I'm paying $40.79 a month for almost the last 5 years. Okay, I'm paying extra. I know that Aquia Harbor Police cannot cover all of the various places that might be break-ins. The break-ins were probably teenagers looking for drugs or drug money. Okay, I've gone through that. Chief Harmon knows about that. The gate guards should work for Chief Harmon, not for Mr. Langer. It's a police function out here. That's security. Security belongs under the police department. Get the organization right. Are we wasting money? Mr. Don Winter, who's not here today, mentioned $100,000 for playground equipment. That's totally ridiculous. I realize that kids have to have a place to play, but that's not an important priority. I already mentioned that. I'm talking about the $100,000. I'm talking about the $100,000.
Sir, please address the board.
Okay, I will. Okay, the emergency gate on Titanic Drive still should be maintained as an emergency gate. I was promised when I bought my house in August of 1987, there would be a second gate coming within 2 years. It was done by Ryland Homes. Okay, I don't like Ryland Homes anymore. Anyway, there's no second gate. And you know, if you've staffed anything for a 24-hour shift, you have to have a minimum of 5 people to do that 7 days a week. So that would actually increase the dues, okay? But again, I think that the emergency gate, I mean, you could open it up for commuters on Friday afternoon, but I don't think it's a good idea. I've sat in traffic coming from Woodbridge 18 miles. It took me 2 hours to get home because of an accident out here on I-95 that happened back in April. But the thing is that people who want to get into Aquia Harbor, if they go off of here onto Whitewater Road and around to Decatur Road, it would still take them longer to get home, even if they waited in traffic to make the left turn into Aquia Harbor. Okay? These are some of the points that's been seething with me for a long time. Okay, and I think that you need to have action. Another question is something happening? Is there a secret agenda? Are we taking money and we hiding it because Aquia Harbor is going down? Think about it. We need revitalization, okay? I've called Mr. Langer several times about the 2100 block of Aquia Drive. Needs repaving, that's on your list. 2011, they were repaving, Virginia Paving, who gets the contracts. They were paving on October the 31st of 2011 when the kids were trick-or-treating on Halloween. Happened to be a Tuesday night, if you want to look at your calendars, okay? That's the whole thing is. So these things get delayed, okay? But anyway, by the way, I want to mention one good thing. You have excellent snow removal. Thank you very much.
Mr. Healy, you
Yes.
brought up a lot of interesting points. Some I'm thinking that other people in the audience probably share or have questions about. I'm just going to very briefly touch on what you said. Oh geez, the sticker dates. Yeah, that does seem funny that our fiscal year starts April 1st. I think that it is confusing to have be in 2016 when we are, what is it, 7 or 8 months in 2015 before it becomes 2016. So, yes, that is confusing to people, and maybe we can rethink that at some future date.
It may inhibit your ability to collect, have people do their dues and get the newer sticker. That was the real point that I was making on there.
Yes, yes. And then there's, you spoke about the state of disrepair. We are an aging community. There are people who currently are making that kind of a priority to try to enforce the restrictions and covenants that we have in existence that perhaps haven't been enforced consistently over the years. When you have new homes, new housing, you don't have to worry about this so much, but we are an aging community now, and we do, in order to maintain property values, we have to look at the commonly owned properties in here and make sure they're maintained, as well as residences maintaining their properties, and we hope that people will cooperate, because everything that we do to make our community more attractive and current actually makes the value of your home in here appreciate more quickly than if you don't do those things. PD, that keeps coming up. I'm not aware of any plan to do away with the police department. Please, please. There's been some things that have been taken about putting a security guards at perhaps at the emergency gate. These were casual things that were tossed out there. I can't imagine ever doing away with the police department in here. And I'm sorry that so many people have the idea that that's what we're intending to do, because we're not.
I'm glad to hear
Thank you.
The only reason I mentioned that, the only reason I brought that subject up was that I got something in the mailbox
Yeah.
telling me that was a very, very definite plan. It's an ongoing thing, and I had to go to, I should come to all these meetings and express my objections and so forth. I didn't invent this whole thing. I just came to comment on information that has already been put out there. And I'm glad to hear you say what you just did.
Hey, sir, I think we all have your concern, okay, and I applaud you for bringing it up. And, you know, if in fact, I'm happy to hear that you say there is no plan, but if there ever was a plan, I would hope that the board does not believe that they can make that decision. Thank you very much. That decision, I would hope, would go to the property owners for a vote.
Then I would ask for a
I'm trying to
question.
get that passed, and it did not pass.
I was just gonna
Did
say,
not
why
pass.
is it then the other night when that was put forth as a motion, why did that not pass? You all shot it down. Which should be us as residents here in Aquia Harbor. Why do you have that power? That's a very good question. We wanna know. That's why all these people are here. We wanna know. I'm Laura Magookin, 828. Yes or no? No?
Yeah.
Double talk. Yes or no? We want an
Why would you vote
answer.
against that?
Because the motion was a little convoluted. If the motion was a lot more clear and plain.
What I just said is pretty black and white.
Very
Clear.
clear.
It was clear.
But there's other amenities in here, and so how do you decide that one working for
Then
us?
specify to
We're
that
we're
one.
focused on one amenity right now. We're not dealing with all the amenities. We wanted a vote on that one amenity.
Because
That's
the
what we
police
care about.
department, because the police department affects every single resident in this neighborhood. It's not the pool that's used by some, the golf course that's used by some. The police department affects every single, that's the difference between some amenities and the police department.
And you can stick to
Way back in lot 850, I would formally like to ask the board to reconsider the motion that was passed at the last board meeting for the previous board meeting to have the police not pick up stray dogs. This is very important to the members of this community and in safety and many other things, in their pets alone. And I don't understand why the board has refused. Supposedly it's because the attorneys have said that this is a liability, but the attorneys do not live here. We live here. And if my dog got out, I would hope that it would be picked up as soon as possible. And also, if my neighbor's dog, who has a German Shepherd, was out, I would hope that that dog would be picked up as soon as possible also, before it bit somebody.
If I just, it seems like this begs an answer. You know, I have dogs too. And mine have gotten out on occasion. And I think it's, you know, we are really a community here. And what I've noticed is, if we see somebody's pet dog is running, I've been involved with other neighbors trying to hunt the animal down and bring it back. I personally have contacted the gate to say, this dog of mine gets pulled off on the leash, and if anybody sees her, it's mine, I'm looking for her. I don't see that we stop doing any of that. Those are things, those are ways that we take care of ourselves, our own community.
I agree, we should not stop doing that.
But there is something regarding the liability of police officers taking dogs. We checked with Stafford County, they don't
Do you realize that
do it.
the police have been doing that all these years since they've been here? And now that you're stopping this, there is some mitigating factors that could come into effect if a dog was run over or it bit somebody?
I mean, I think, I mean, in my standpoint, the night we voted on it, et cetera, is that this is an operational issue. I think the GM and the chief should be able to work this out and make a proposal back to the board, you know, to see if we can still do what's best for the community, what's best, you know, and do it in a risk manner. Currently, I don't think there's been any incidences where an officer's been bit or there's been any true damage to any facility in here, so the risk isn't there. I mean, we've shown you we've got a trend, right, trend analysis, and we've shown it's not a risk. But we also have seen immediately after we passed that, a risk to other dogs in the harbor when animal control can or they're unable to come out here and pick up an animal and it goes and attacks another animal. So we know there's a risk one way, but not the other way.
So will the board please revisit this?
We'll revisit.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Stu Basinger, 2579. I've been here 18 years, my wife and my daughter. I know that we've already talked about the police situation and but getting this little flyer a week ago, there's a few points here that are a little disturbing, and I just want to address them. And either one of you can answer yes or no, or true or false, or whatever. Please feel free to, step on me. We've already talked about apparently there's one bid was received for a security firm to replace the police department. Was that ever?
We've never received a bid. What happened was we were told that Lake of the Woods pays $375,000 for security.
Okay.
And the homeowner said, why are we paying $800,000? So we asked their security firm just to give us an idea of what service they provide. I don't know that we ever got it. We don't have anything back from them, but it was just more of a kind, in my mind, it was just kind of a double check type.
Okay. Point number, I'm sorry, ma'am, I have the floor.
Yes, yes.
Some directors are conducting private meetings which is against the bylaws.
That's not true at all. That's completely made up.
Isn't going to Lake of the Woods?
Ma'am, I have the floor. I'm sorry. If we need to conduct this properly, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The board of directors are voting on items at the monthly meetings that are not on the scheduled agenda, which is against the bylaws, i.e. no dogs in any Aquia Harbor building or car.
What happens is the agenda gets posted like on a Monday, and we meet on a Wednesday. At the beginning of every board meeting, an item can be added to the agenda. So there's never been a vote on an item that is not on, I asked, at the beginning of every board meeting, are there any additions to the agenda? I asked the board members. They will, because something will come up, they will add something to the agenda. Those things do on occasion get voted on. We try as a rule to discuss something at a work session before we vote on it the following Wednesday. But sometimes things come up that we need to vote on right away. But never is anything been voted on that is not on the approved agenda that the board has.
And there's no bylaw requirement for it.
Yeah, and there's no bylaw.
But there's actually a Robert's rule.
It's not-
That's in there. It is incorporated by reference, part of Robert's Rule of Order is incorporated
Yes,
by
I
reference in the
understand.
bylaws.
Okay.
And so you're allowed to add information and items to the agenda, but you're not allowed to vote on them unless it's an emergency.
Point number 5 here, the board of directors lack transparency, which was specifically promised at the last election by a few candidates.
I mean, I don't know what that means. Every meeting that we attend is an open meeting. I mean, if people want to know what's going on, they just need to come to these meetings.
Just address it, that's all I'm saying. I find these accusations disturbing, that's why.
No problem.
You've already addressed this, Director Green, the board of directors failed to follow Robert's Rules of Order? They do?
Consistently.
The board of directors failed to follow the bylaws they swore to uphold. And the last point, the board of directors have minimal transparency with our budget finances and expenditures.
I mean, copy of budget's available. Finance committee meetings are open to the public. I'm not sure how more transparent we're supposed to be.
And last thing, I'm sorry, before I yield the floor. I'm in the 3rd section, and I heard about the gate, or the second gate, whatever. What was the final, or where are we on this, on the emergency gate back there?
We met with VDOT on Wednesday.
Monday.
Monday. So what their recommendation is that we do a feasibility study to look at Decatur Road and see if it can handle the traffic, see if our gate, what needs to be done to our gate to make that what we'd like to do, if it could be done, is make it a swing arm gate back there. But they recommended we do a feasibility study and get the cost, because they're not sure. It would have to be widened, we might have to buy some property to do it. So basically, we're looking at getting a cost.
I know from prior tries, I've driven to that gate on the other side when I'm going to the vineyard back there. But I find that it's 20 minutes from that gate all the way to Route 1 practically. I personally don't want a second gate. I think the emergency gate is fine as it is. I feel that if there's a second gate back there, it opens the 3rd section up to a possibility of more vandalism. But that's just my point of view. I would like to see a feasibility study when it's done, and I look forward to it. And thank you, I yield the floor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown.
My name is Wayne Gardner. We live at Lot 478. We've lived here for 35 years. And I served on the board as a volunteer for 1 year, 2012, 2013. So I've been on both sides of these conversations. I'm going to just kind of discuss 3 bylaw amendments that I intend to propose this year. But first of all, I deplore the fact that almost half the board is not here tonight. This has been on the schedule for months.
And this date was set less than a month ago. 2 people are on vacation. We are volunteers. One person is at the doctor's office with medical issues. He intended to be here. Okay? We're
It doesn't
volunteers,
look
we get to
It
take
does
vacation
not
like
look
everybody
good.
else.
Doesn't look good, he's right.
Doesn't look good. A couple of issues. When I was on the board in 2013, before I was released for my term and whatever, we had a presentation for rejuvenation. Rejuvenation is spreading some material on asphalt roads, which extends their life tremendously, and it could result in a savings of upwards of what, $100,000 a year, or whatever. And that still hasn't been put in place, which I find inexplicable. I know that someone on the board said, well, there's other products out there, maybe we ought to look at them. But we should have been going ahead. You're not required to start out with one, do that for the rest of your life. You know, we could have been doing some savings right now. The second thing is that there's been no reserve budget set yet. Okay, we're already almost to July. And the reserve budget is critical for this community in order to have a long-term plan to maintain the amenities.
The reserve budget's already been set, sir.
Pardon?
The reserve budget was set 2 meetings ago.
Okay. I was at the last meeting, I wasn't the one 2 meetings ago. Okay. My bad. Sorry. From what I hear, a large number of residents have lost confidence in the board. I think it may come down to the fact of lack of transparency and communication. And here's what I'm going to propose. Well, one is to have a bylaw that sets out how the governing body is supposed to work. I'm not talking about Robert's Rules of Order, that's already in the bylaws. But to get support from the community, buy-in, to make this a combined effort between the community and board members, that every item that is to come up on the monthly meeting must have been discussed, unless there's an emergency, and the dogs wasn't an emergency, that it must be discussed in the work session. The work session, I would suggest, to be moved from the 3rd week to the 2nd week, so that there's 2 weeks in between the work session and the actual board meeting, that all of the agenda that each addendum that was discussed in the work meeting has got to be publicized so that we all have access to it, so we know what's going on. So we have an interest in that, and we can do our homework, etc. Then when the board meets on the 4th week, there's been time for all the residents to know what's being discussed, what's coming up, and that people who are interested can come to that meeting. Okay? The second I'm going to propose is that all expenditures that exceed a certain amount, I don't know what that amount should be, but let's just say $10,000, $20,000, $15,000, $20,000 at a time, must be presented to the community to approve it. Just like when the Stafford County has votes for a bond, to build a playground or a sports facility, whatever, everybody has a chance to do that, get involved in it. And then the third thing I'm going to propose is that the police force be established in the bylaws as a permanent, I hesitate to call it an amenity, I would call it a permanent feature of the organization, and that it may not be dissolved without a vote of the members of the association. The last thing I'd like to, and I think this is maybe what Mr. Green was driving at during the last meeting when you wanted that log book, people come to see the GM and all that kind of stuff. I think the board should get out of the general manager's business. It is inefficient and not fair to the general manager to have individual members of the board harangue him about their own pet peeve. You know? The board should only direct the general manager when the issue has been discussed at the work session, it's been voted upon in a meeting, and the president of the board himself carries it to the general manager. That's what he should act. Other than that, he should manage this place because that's what he's been paid to do.
Joyce Harvey, lot 0317. I just have a quiet statement to follow up on some of the statements I've been hearing here. It is my belief that this board was elected to represent the community and not be a law unto itself. You are here to serve the interest of the community, and the community has spoken about our police department. The next board meeting, I'd like to hear that motion from Director Green again and see it passed. Under the bylaws, a solution.
That's right.
Here.
Howard Coates, lot 2775. I will be brief. I hadn't planned on speaking, but just a couple things I've heard. Director Green, I want to applaud you for your resolution. This board is probably not going to get a clap. I appreciate it. I think the Harbor Police Department is not just an amenity, but because of the magnitude of their impact on our daily lives, something greater. I do agree, however, with some of the comments we've heard that the magnitude of your original resolution was perhaps broad in scope, talking about human resources, budgeting, staffing. I would ask the board in their next work session to work with Director Green to kind of refine that, to give it a quantifiable, finite scope, and bring that to vote and see that pass.
Yeah.
Secondly, before the last meeting, I've lived for 8 years, I never bothered to go to one. Honestly, I didn't know you guys existed. I paid money, I came home, I went to work, life was good. Then I got on Facebook. What I learned, I'm pretty sure there's a Real Housewives of Aquia Harbor site coming next. But what I would say to the directors in the room and to myself as well, what I've learned from what I've read on Facebook and what I've heard you guys say, is the truth seems to be somewhere in the gray in between. So I'm going to encourage everyone, because I know I've learned the hard way by ignoring it for so long, to continue to come to the meetings, take what you read, combine it with what you have to say, and allow us to hold you accountable to whatever we determine that gray in the middle to be. Thank you.
Maria Brown, lot 1621. It's obvious that people were not being called on in order of raising their hands. I turn my opportunity to speak over to Tracy.
Yes.
Why, thank you, Maria. If I got called before you, I was going to do the same thing for you. Tracy Mason, lot 1482. A few things. This gentleman here spoke about the flyer and addressed the board. First and foremost, I would have to reiterate, we have 3 missing board members. I understand 2 are on vacation, 1's at the doctor's. However, it is incomplete. Director Caldwell, you're awfully quiet. So perhaps some participation so that we could get your perspective and your point of view. Because that makes us kind of feel like now there's 4 missing board members, not just 3. So I just kind of want to put that out there. This gentleman spoke of procedures, bylaws, Robert's rules, etc., with the flyer that was distributed. I have a question with a meeting that occurred with 5 board members and attorneys. Somewhere, Robert's laws, bylaws, whichever, pick one, says that 3 or more board members come together, it is deemed a meeting. I don't recall seeing on the web page or an announcement on the association page to the residents that board members were going to get together for this meeting. So I'm sorry? No, for the lawyer meeting, the 5 board members with the lawyers that you informed.
Seminar.
Okay, it's still 5 board members that are together.
It's not a board meeting, ma'am. We attended a seminar to get some education on legal issues, not a board meeting, and not even close.
Okay, not a board meeting, but when 3 or more board members come together, isn't that supposed to not happen, even in a seminar setting?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'm a little confused with that based off of other occurrences. The other thing is the police department, the dogs. The last I knew, the board, from what I've heard at election times, Barb's election time, Deb's election time, Shepherd, Winters, you're here for the community. You want to do what it is the community wants done, what's in the best interest of the community. What do we need to do a petition over the police department to reach a compromise for the residents to be allowed to vote on that? Do we need to do a petition to have the doggy rule reinstated? It was there for 5 years. Police officers didn't get hurt. Residents didn't get hurt. Other animals didn't get hurt. Chief Harmon and crew have been collecting the dogs for 5 years. Everybody adores it. We work together as a team until last month, out of the blue. From nowhere, it was just squashed. And we have all of these residents that are saying, whoa, hang on a second. We don't like this. And last Wednesday's board meeting, it was brought up and it was denied again. I have to agree with B. There needs to be a compromise. And I think that's pretty much what the residents are trying to say, is that there needs to be a compromise. We're willing to compromise with cages outside of the PD and not having a dog actually in the building, but you guys are saying no.